You'll never survive in the real world if you stay this soft. My mom, Helen, said loudly across the table at the family dinner. Her words cut through the room like a knife. Everyone froze for a second, their forks hovering in the air, before they started mumbling and giving awkward little laughs, trying to pretend nothing had happened. I stared at my plate, my jaw tight. I didn't want to cause a scene. I'm doing fine, Mom, I said as calmly as I could. Fine isn't enough, she said, waving her wine glass around like she was swatting away my words. You're too timid, too careful, you'll never make it unless you toughen up. Her words hurt, but they weren't new. I had heard versions of that speech my whole life. To my mother, being quiet meant being weak, being thoughtful meant being scared. She never saw the strength it took to stay steady when everyone else rushed ahead. My name is Erica, and I'm 32 years old. I've always been the quiet one in the family, the one who preferred listening over talking, thinking things through instead of jumping right in. My mother, Helen, was the complete opposite. She had built a chain of bakeries from scratch, and she wore her ambition like a badge of honor. She was bold, loud, and unstoppable, and she had no patience for people who didn't match her energy. Growing up, I tried to earn her approval. I joined every club I could, took leadership positions, and forced myself to be louder, pushier, more driven, just like she wanted, but it never felt right. It felt like I was wearing a costume, and somehow, no matter what I did, it was never enough for her. By my 20s, I stopped trying to fit into her idea of success. I realized I didn't have to change who I was. I could work hard in my own quiet way. I could succeed on my own terms. I started building a business of my own, a digital marketing agency, pouring in late nights, endless research, and steady effort. It wasn't flashy like my mom's bakeries, but it was real, and it was mine. Back at the dinner table, my mom turned to my cousin Emma, who had just gotten a promotion at a big downtown firm. Now there's a girl with ambition, she said brightly, like she hadn't just insulted me in front of everyone. You could learn a thing or two from her, Erica. I forced a polite smile, but inside, I felt the familiar sting. No matter what I achieved, she would always find a way to overlook it. After dinner, I drove home in silence. The city lights blurred outside the car window, but my mind was stuck replaying the night. My mom's voice echoed in my head, "You're too soft, you'll never make it." At home, I dropped my purse on the kitchen counter and flopped down on the couch. My phone buzzed. It was Lydia, my best friend. "Lydia, how was dinner? Should I bring ice cream?" I chuckled despite myself and texted back, "Me." She compared me to Emma again. Apparently, I'm still too soft for the real world. Almost immediately, Lydia replied, "Lydia, please, you could run circles around Emma. She just talks louder." I smiled at my phone, feeling a little better. Lydia always reminded me of who I really was. She knew how much work I had put into building my company. She saw me, really saw me, in a way my mom never had. I told myself I didn't need my mom's approval. I repeated it like a prayer, but deep down, a small part of me still wished she could be proud of me. The next morning, I was at my desk, working through client reports, when my phone rang. The caller ID said Richard, one of my mom's oldest employees. He'd been with her bakeries since I was a little girl. "Richard?" I answered, surprised. "Hey, Erica," he said, his voice calm but serious. "I thought you should know. Your mom's business isn't doing so well. This past year's been rough. We've had to close a few locations. She hasn't told the family yet, but I didn't want you to find out too late." I sat there, stunned. I knew how much those bakeries meant to her, no matter how hard she was on me. I didn't want her to lose everything she had worked so hard for. "Thanks for telling me," I said quietly. After I hung up, I sat at my desk, staring at nothing. I couldn't stop thinking about it. My mom would never ask for help, especially not from me. She'd rather lose everything than admit she needed someone else, but maybe I could help without waiting for her to ask. For the next few days, I couldn't focus. Every email and meeting felt meaningless compared to what was weighing on my heart. I called Lydia. "I can't just sit here," I told her, pacing around my apartment. "I need to help her." "Then do it," Lydia said without hesitation. "You don't need her permission. You know how to fix this." "But she doesn't think I'm capable," I said. "That's her problem," Lydia said firmly. "You're not doing this to prove her wrong. You're doing it because you care." That night, I opened my laptop and started working. I dug into everything: her business reviews, public records, Financial reports. It was worse than I thought. Sales had dropped for 2 years straight. She was losing customers to new bakeries with better marketing and easier online ordering. I opened a new document and started typing. Branding ideas, partnerships with delivery apps, modernized recipes, new promotions. I poured everything I had learned over the years into that plan. By the time I finished, I had a full strategy that could actually save her bakeries. The next day, I called Richard again. I want to help, I said, but do you think she'll even listen? He was quiet for a moment. She's stubborn, he admitted, but if anyone can get through to her, it's you. I took a deep breath. Okay, I'm doing this. A week later, I stood outside my mom's office at the main bakery. My heart was hammering in my chest as I knocked. Come in, she called out. She looked up from her desk when I walked in, surprise flashing across her face. Erica, what are you doing here? I sat down across from her, hands folded tightly in my lap. I heard about the bakeries. Mom, I want to help. She frowned. Help? How? I slid the folder across the desk. I did the research. I've put together a plan. I think it could turn things around. She picked up the folder and flipped through it, her face unreadable. Then she looked up, her voice sharp. This is all very impressive, but you've never run a bakery. Why should I trust you with this? The words stung, but I stayed calm. You're right, I've never run a bakery, but I know how to fix businesses. I've been doing it for years. I'm not here to take over, I just want to help. She narrowed her eyes. Why would you care? Because it matters to you, I said simply, and I care about you. She stared at me for a long moment, then slowly set the folder down. I'll think about it, she said. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. As I walked out of her office, I felt something shift inside me. For the first time, I had stood up to her, not by fighting, but by staying true to myself. Over the next few days, Richard kept me updated. My mom was reading through the plan. She didn't say anything to me directly, but I could tell she was thinking about it. Finally, one morning, I went back to the bakery. She was in the kitchen, kneading dough the same way she had when I was a kid. I watched her for a moment before speaking. Morning, Mom, I said. She didn't look up. What do you want, Erica? Just to talk, I said. Did you think about the plan? She sighed, wiping her hands on her apron. I looked it over. Some of it makes sense, but, she hesitated. This isn't your world, Erica. You don't know what it's like to run a place like this. Maybe not, I said softly, but I know how to save it. She finally met my eyes. There was something different there, something softer, maybe even a little scared. For the first time, I realized, she wasn't just stubborn, she was afraid of failing, afraid of losing everything she had built. And maybe, just maybe, she was starting to realize that she didn't have to do it alone. Bakery? Maybe not exactly, I admitted to myself, but I did know how to run a business, and looking at Mom, I could see she was struggling, even if she didn't want to admit it. Her eyes narrowed at me. I've been doing just fine without your help, she said sharply. I stayed calm and spoke gently. Have you, though? Mom, you're losing customers, you're closing stores, the competition is getting tougher. This isn't about pride anymore, it's about survival. For a second, I thought she would get angry and yell at me, but instead, she slowly sat down in a chair at the corner of the kitchen. Her shoulders sagged. Do you know how hard it is for me to admit you might be right? She said softly, her voice trembling a little. Hearing her say that caught me off guard. I kept my voice steady and kind. I'm not here to rub it in or say, I told you so. I just want to help. She looked up at me then, and her eyes were shiny with unshed tears. You really think your plan can work? She asked. I know it can, I said firmly. She didn't say anything for a moment, then she gave a small, quiet nod. Okay, she whispered, let's try it your way. As I left the bakery that night, I felt a mix of emotions. I was tired, but I was also excited. For the first time, it felt like my mom might actually trust me. It was just a small step, but it was enough. The real work started the next day. I spent hours going through everything, Mom's financial records, the inventory, the customer feedback. It was even worse than I had expected. Several locations were close to shutting down. Even the flagship bakery, the pride of Mom's life, was barely making enough money to stay open. When I showed her the numbers, she looked heartbroken. I didn't realize things had gotten this bad, she said, her voice low and full of regret. I reached out and touched her hand lightly. This isn't about blaming anyone, I said, it's about fixing it. We can turn this around, but it's going to take a lot of work. She nodded, though she looked scared. Over the next few weeks, I gave it everything I had. I worked side by side with Richard, one of Mom's oldest employees, and the rest of the team. We updated the menu, changed the look of the bakery, and set up partnerships with local delivery companies. Mom didn't make it easy. She hovered around me constantly, questioning almost every decision I made. One morning, when I was setting up online ordering on the bakery's website, she frowned. "Are you sure this is going to work?" she asked, doubtful. I smiled, though it was hard. "Trust me, Mom, people want convenience now. If we don't give it to them, we'll lose even more customers." She crossed her arms and said nothing, just watched silently as I kept working. Still, there were small signs that things were changing. One afternoon, while I was working on a new social media campaign, she brought me a cup of coffee. "I didn't realize you were so good at this stuff," she said awkwardly. I smiled as I took the cup. "Thanks, it's what I've been doing for years." She nodded slowly, staring at the computer screen. "Maybe I should have paid more attention before," she said quietly. Her words hit me harder than I expected. For so long, I had wanted her to see me, not just as her child, but as someone capable, someone she could trust. As the weeks passed, the changes we made started to work. More people came into the store, orders from the website rolled in, the staff seemed happier and more energetic. Even Mom seemed lighter. She didn't fight every new idea anymore. She still had her doubts, but she was starting to believe. One evening, after a long busy day, she looked around at the full bakery and said, almost in wonder, "I didn't think we'd ever see this place busy again." "We're just getting started," I told her, smiling. It felt like we were finally working together, as a team. The road wasn't completely smooth, though. Mom still struggled to accept some changes. One afternoon, while we were looking over the sales reports, she frowned at the delivery numbers. "I just don't understand," she said, frustrated. "Why can't people just come into the store? That's what a bakery is supposed to be about, the smell, the feel of it." I took a deep breath and tried to explain. "Mom, it's not about taking away the experience, it's about giving people more choices. Some of our customers would never be able to come in. Now, they can still enjoy what you created." She didn't look convinced. Instead of arguing, I pulled up the bakery's new Instagram page and showed her the comments. "Look," I said, scrolling down. One comment said, "So happy I can get my favorite croissants delivered. I haven't been able to visit in years, but now I can enjoy them at home." Mom squinted at the screen, reading carefully. Slowly, she gave a small nod. "Maybe you're onto something," she said quietly. It was little moments like that, tiny bits of acceptance, that kept me going. Richard was a huge help through all of it. He had been with the bakery since the beginning. One evening, after we finished prepping for a big food festival, he pulled me aside. "You know," he said with a grin, "I've been here over 20 years. I've never seen this place run so smoothly." "Thanks, Richard," I said, feeling a lump in my throat. He leaned in a little, lowering his voice. "Your mom might not say it out loud," he whispered, "but she's proud of you. I can see it in the way she looks at you." That night, I stayed late, finishing up some paperwork. As I locked up the bakery, I took a moment to look around. This place had always been my mom's world, a symbol of all her hard work, sacrifice, and stubborn pride. But now, it felt like it was becoming something more, a place where her legacy and my future could grow together. For the first time in years, it really felt like we were on the same side. And that feeling was worth more to me than any number on a spreadsheet.